Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. So welcome back once again to OnAir Airline Manager as I go through trying to evaluate career add-on options to see which one I may want to utilize. So OnAir is the only paid one at this point I'm looking at. In the interim, since the last time I made any content for OnAir, I've been basically immersing myself in the two other options that I've looked at. So Newsky has come and gone very quickly. Not sure where things will be published. I'm likely going to be putting out a bunch of videos on all on one day or something, and maybe spread them some reasonable way across a few days. But there's no reason to drag this stuff on for 3 weeks, and I don't know that people would be that interested. Like, if people want to know, they're going to want to know, but sitting there and waiting, it's not as if I'm going through the career series, because I've said for sure, like, I would likely probably restart OnAir, because I've certainly done some things that I might have not done in that sequence. I don't know. Maybe I would continue, but either way, obviously, I'm kind of up there. It's interesting. I think my reputation dropped. I wonder if it's because it's been 2 days without any activity. I wonder if you lose reputation just for non-activity. The people are like, this company might not be reliable. We're not going to take them. The other one I looked at was Aviatife, and that, I believe, is how it's said. I had all kinds of challenges, including aircraft crashing. I ended up with 3 crashes, so I currently hold the record for the day, for that current day when I did that. So yay for me. But it also looks like Aviatife, even though it's a couple years old. I believe there were 5 of us that did anything today, so it's a very small community that's doing anything. And there are things that require you to interact with others in the community, but the biggest turnoff is the fact that it forces you to fly with crash detection. You can't even start tracking a flight unless your crash detection is on. So on the one hand, yes, you can view that as a challenge, but what ended up happening with the airplane where I crashed is basically the autopilot stopped functioning properly in the plane. I don't know how else I'd describe it other than either yo-yoing or roller coastering. I mean, literally, if you did the view outside the plane, you could watch it like seesaw. Literally, the plane was doing that much motion in the air. And it obviously couldn't fly when it was doing that, and so it would plummet from the sky and would crash. And I have yet to find a way to get out of it, and I have yet to find anything on the internet about anyone that did get out of it. So, but it was with Beechcraft Bonanza G36. I was all excited because I found a way there to be able to afford to rent that pretty quickly. And it's like, oh, it's a 5-seater. So I don't think it's an Aviatife problem. I think it's a Beechcraft G36 problem. And my educated guess with doing a little bit of testing is I think it has to do when you get above a certain altitude, the plane just doesn't work well for the autopilot there. So because it's a single propeller plane, it can't get up extremely high, although it says it's rated to 18,500 feet. So I think the first time I had the problem occur, I had gotten the plane up to like 11,000, and then it happened. The problem was it happened, the first 2 times it happened when I had stepped away, because I thought, oh, the plane's on autopilot for an hour, and then I would come back to a black screen that said, you have crashed. So, but I was able to go back and look at, in one case, I had left the video recording by accident, but it helped out because I could see what had happened, and it was like, And the other issue with Aviative is basically as passengers and cargo, there's some possibility of other things, but again, those other things require interaction. So basically, you can start up businesses kind of similar to the industries that you have here, but you're only able to work in the one industry. So let's say I pick a chemical building at some point. All I could ever use then is chemical buildings, but the supply chain that's needed to make products in the chemical building requires products from a different group of buildings that I can't build then. And so I would then need someone to supply them or be able to buy it from someone. Again, I don't know exactly how that would work. And if there's not a whole lot of activity going on, that could make that pretty frustrating and so forth. So really that one has fallen down on the list because it just doesn't look like it's viable for the fact that there just aren't that many people, and then all you're doing is really flying passengers. And yes, the cargo kind of varies, but it's similar to what I've seen both here and in NeoFly. It does have a very fun interface on the website. So again, if you're curious about it, absolutely check out the videos I put out about it. Again, I may return to it a little bit as I try to hone in, because my challenge still is I don't know between OnAir and NeoFly exactly where I would be. But I'm back here in NeoFly, or in OnAir, sorry, because our FBO should be done. So let's go take a look and just see what, if anything, other than the FBO is ready, that we're going to see. And if you recall, last time we were together, I was doing maintenance on the Cessna at the airport I was at. We just finished the search and rescue mission. So, we've done sightseeing, we've done the rescue. But now if I go to the FBO and go to, I think, manage, so we're accessing the FBO, now it's not saying anything that it's in production or anything anymore. Now it's ready to be used. And I've got, 2 tie downs. I've got fuel, so I should be able to order some fuel now. Alright, it won't let me, let's see. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so I can hold up to 1,000 gallons. So if I do that, I'm trying to buy the wrong fuel type. I don't have jet. So it tells me there I can do that. So there you go. It would cost me $3,300. If we order the fuel, there we go. So the estimated delivery, that's there. And then eventually, if I got the skill, I would be able to sell the fuel. But right now, this basically gives me that fuel, and I can buy it at $3.30 instead of paying the fees that I was paying here. So for example, $7.40 a gallon. So I'm literally more than 50% off buying that fuel. Now, again, it's going to be at my main airport, so I'm going to have to make sure I kind of get back to my main airport before I have to fuel up as often as I can. But, it was $7.40, $6.20, $7.11, $7.40 again. And that $7.40 is at my airport where I have my own FBO now. I like the fact that if you have a lot of FBOs, you can just refuel them all to a certain percentage. So that's always good. And so the fuel type is the 100 LL. So that's why we did it that way. But I don't know that there's necessarily anything that I need to do here with regards to continuing on. But that's what I'm trying to determine. The point certainly was to get in here and look at the FBO, we've done that. I don't know that there's a whole lot more I can learn by continuing to fly, other than just, enjoying the fact that, hey, I've got 2 or 3 days more before my free trial ends to determine, what to do. So the other challenge I have had with OnAir is, like you saw, the loading that took a little while there, and that really wasn't that bad. But I have had it freeze Microsoft Flight Simulator. I've kind of determined recently that, well, maybe it just takes a really long time, and unless it crashes, I should just wait, because there were a couple times when I was flying in the other episodes and then was coming back in to look at something where it took 2 or 3 minutes, and it looked like OnAir Airline Manager had just locked up. I mean, it said not responding up there. In the past, I had gone into Task Manager and killed it off and so forth. But I decided, hey, I'll just wait on the others, and eventually it did come back. And sometimes it's simply because it's drawing this map the way it was doing it with the squares, and it just takes a little bit of time. Okay, so I think what I'm going to actually turn this episode into is kind of a combination of mulling through what I'm thinking about. And on the one hand, too, I'm going to be upfront. I have hit, I think, I'm finally starting to feel a saturation point on flying. I've done so much flying in the last week, testing these things out, that I'm just like, I really don't want to get in the plane again. Probably tomorrow I'll feel fine, but I am definitely not going to be doing anything else tonight with that. But this is, obviously the NeoFly interface. And so the thing that I think NeoFly has going for it is it has all these job types. So that's the thing. Like, even though this is cargo, it's very similar to, say, Aviatife, where if I go into cargo, and it's very slow responding right now, and it could be because I have OnAir running in the background. I don't know. So you can see I've got 265 pounds of cigarettes. I've got 194 pounds of magazines. I've got 117 pounds of cigarettes. 238 pounds of medicine. Again, magazines. But I've seen mechanical parts. There's coffee. Just go somewhere else. Cigarettes. A lot of demand for cigarettes. But similarly, Aviatife, the difference is, like, here it's just text. The cute presentation in Aviatife is, okay, there's icons, but, like, I can see all the types of things I can do, and there's maybe 30 across everything. And that includes, like, the illegal jobs, which are these things where you've got the illicit cargo, where, again, I don't know that they tell you what the illicit cargo is. This is just going very slowly. And the other issue with Aviatife is it does have ranking, kind of like this does, where, I can go ahead and, move on up to, right, so there's, current rank cadet, experience 295 to 1,000. And then the next rank is the second officer, and it gives me the information that I'm going to be able to get deadline cargo, fragile cargo, secret passenger, parachute, advertising, and hazardous cargo. So basically, I'm going to unlock the 3 cargo boxes down below. The secret passenger, I think, is the one with it's a little hat with eyeglasses, so the last person icon. Parachute is obviously the person with the parachute, so it's to the left of where it says AD. The advertising, I'm not sure which one that is, because yes, I think the parachute at the end with like the medical supplies, I think that's like a medical drop zone or something. Advertising is probably the AD because you're putting, hauling banners and stuff like that. And OnAir has the sightseeing jobs and the rescue jobs. And so once again, like I think, so there is search and rescue. But basically in NeoFly, I have 18 mission types here. I have basically 4 in OnAir. I would also say the qualification type, or the qualification section here in NeoFly, is a bit more robust and realistic as well, in that to get qualified, I suppose you could take it either way, because to get qualified in OnAir, as I understand it, you have to do a check ride in a specific plane, which basically means you just find the plane available, you rent it, and then you go in and say, I'm going to, do this, and a check ride button is there, and you can then just do it. Where here, I have to go to a facility and, in essence, get qualified. So the idea is, and I think that's where it kind of combines, because this is still a check ride. Like, I have to get in this Cessna at Somerset County Airport, and then it's going to have me do stuff. And it's going to give me instructions as an instructor would that would be on my check ride. So this requires me to go where the instructor is, which I believe would probably be the logical thing. The instructor wouldn't just randomly show up because, hey, I have this plane, I want a check ride. I mean, in theory, I guess you could find someone locally at whatever airport you were at, and you could work that out. But once again, this kind of gives me those features, and it has a basically a cash flow statement that shows me very clearly what's happening. And again, it's just simply saying payment for mission cargo. It's not as detailed as OnAir, where OnAir's cash flow statement, for example, gives me this detail, but once again, it still says payment for cargo. It doesn't tell me what kind of cargo it was. Where now, within NeoFly, I can expand this, and I can see, okay, this is computing equipment. But again, it's similar in NeoFly and OnAir, where, there isn't a little picture of a computer here. It's just text. Shelf-stable goods, textiles, and so there are likely more types of things where obviously I just had cigarettes and whatever. But here in OnAir, right now I haven't repeated anything. I've got electric generators. I've got, let's see what else comes up here. Specialist equipment. Okay, textiles. So that's our first repeat. And then for the passengers, it's, executives, or here's holiday makers, or an ambassador, say that one, ambassadorial delegation. It's just giving you more thing. There's students, there's whatever, some emergency workers, where here I have 1 passenger to Youngstown, 1 passenger to Cleveland Hopkins, 1 passenger to Gay 930H. So it doesn't tell me, what these passengers are doing. So here we have clothes. So as I said, there's small little things, but NeoFly's actually got quite a bit for a free program. And once again, the downside, I would say, that I'm not liking in OnAir is, as I said, the more difficult economy, which would be the one that would make sense to use if I'm really driving a career there, almost dictates that you have to be a freelance airline operator first to make some money before you could jump into going ahead and working as a GA operator like this. So I think really if people can drop comments, the reality is, I'll probably have made a decision by the time the videos are out. Although, again, I'm probably going to just throw them all out, so there may be a day or two. But it's not as if I can't suddenly pivot later if I want to. But the benefit with Neofly is there's no cost right now. And I have all that capability in front of me with all the mission types. So again, if we look, there's fragile, there's time sensitive, there's VIPs. If I go here, these are just regular passengers, but the people in the seats, like those are the VIPs or executives and so forth. And there's the fragile. So there are similar things, precision instruments and so forth. But I think at this point, I'm seeing everything that is available. I don't think there are other job types that show up in OnAir Manager that I don't have now. And I've got the sightseeing and I have rescue. I have those over on the other side. The difference is, FBOs can generate jobs. I'm not going to do those type of things in Neofly. And if I did, I would then have to pay some, but it's a one-time fee. But I think the paid option, I don't think really does kind of FBO stuff. It's more just unlocking AI pilots and things like that, which are already part of OnAir. Now, the pros for OnAir, where it definitely beats Neofly, is I think there's more activity and more forward progress in OnAir because it is a paid ecosystem. And so they have the industries, they've added the features of owning the airports and what that starts to do to the economy and so forth. And if I'm here, there is this, time-bound thing. Like there's a job here that has to get done in a certain period, because so there are kind of the rush jobs, just like we have the time cargo here in Neofly. But I'm really hard pressed to say that I could say OnAir would win very clearly. And some of the things here, like this, where I can tell very easily, and I can even sort airports by, do they have hard runways? Do they have lights and fuel and towers and so forth? That's a cool thing with Neofly. The other thing is, the fact that I can come in here, like my plane can accept 366 pounds. I can just hit that button. That changes that. I now have a lot fewer jobs on my map, because I can now see, those jobs that I can do with my weight only, meaning I won't be overloaded. So yeah, I think basically what I'm saying is I think Neofly is going to be, I think it makes sense to make Neofly the career mode option at this point. And obviously OnAir is always there in the background. But at this point, I think that's what I will do. I don't know, if I'll do anything else. I think I'm not going to create any videos. Like if I poke around in OnAir a little bit more just to get my use of my free time, I'll probably just do that offline, because I don't know that I'm going to discover anything new. If I suddenly discover something new, and certainly if I suddenly discovered something new that would make me pick it instead of Neofly initially, then I would do that. Because, the thing that I don't know is I don't think I got to the point where I was able to unlock the search and rescue missions. Which were these, if I recall. And so what I don't know is, do they function in a similar way? They probably won't be quite as professionally laid out as, hey, here is this grid on the map, and you fly through it, and then it changes, and all of that. And this is obviously not showing, the nice map. It doesn't have the runway pieces, so that's the downside for sure with Neofly is, when I'm flying to these strange airports, I will be struggling more than I was with OnAir, where I came to really like those lines that extended out. I can always do OnAir later if I ultimately feel there's a tipping point, but I'm basically fumbling around to try to find a better reason to justify it. They're both very good. They're both very interesting to me, and I think I'd probably be happy with either one. I don't want to do both because I just feel I'm not going to have time to really do both, because as I said, I'm hitting that burnout point with what I was doing where I'm like, all right, too much flight simulator. I need to like stop for a little bit. And obviously I've not been doing other things because I had the paid option of OnAir, and so I knew this week would be focused heavily on Flight Simulator, but there's not been much else that I've been doing. I'm going to wrap this up. I think we've made the decision at this point, and so the NeoFly series will continue. The others will likely end, and if they do come back later, they're going to come back kind of with a clear explanation of what's happening, or that somehow I'm deciding to do a couple at the same time, but I don't think that'll happen. If I was making that call right now, that's not the way I would go. So if you've enjoyed this, haven't dropped a like, please consider doing that. If you're not a subscriber, please consider that, and I will see you next time.